Backstage Knitting Podcast. Backstage Knitting Podcast. Backstage Knitting Podcast. Backstage Knitting Podcast. Grab your knitting and a cup of tea. Beth and Anna, what more could you need? It's the Backstage Knitting Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Backstage Knitting Podcast. I'm Bethany, and I am your host. That barking you just heard, that was Roxy. She is eating and not used to me talking to myself. Okay, so today is Monday, July 2nd, 2018. This is episode 41, and thank you so much to all of our returning listeners and viewers for coming and checking us out again. And to my new listeners and viewers for giving me a shot. I really appreciate it. Okay, so there are no shout outs this week, but if you would like a shout out, what you need to do is go into the Backstage Knitting Podcast Ravelry group, find the Getting to Know You thread, and introduce yourself. Tell me your name, where you're from, what you like to knit or crochet or spin or weave, or if you do theater, if you don't do theater, or your favorite comic book, or, you know, whatever. I just like to get a feel for who's checking us out and who all of you lovely people are. Yeah, so, and if you do that, I'll respond, and then I will also give you a shout out on the next episode, so that is pretty darn cool. I know I like it when I get my shout-outs on other podcasts. It makes me feel awesome. Okay, if you are looking to find Backstage Knitting Podcast out in the public, out in the real world, and by public and real world, I mean the internet, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, but we're most active on Instagram, but that does shoot out to our Facebook and Twitter page. Let's see, you can find show notes where I will link to everything I talk about today at backstageknitting.com. You can email me with questions, comments, concerns, etc. at backstageknitting@gmail.com. Of course, please join our Ravelry group, Backstage Knitting Podcast. And you can subscribe to the audio version of this show on Apple Podcasts. And as of last episode, there is now a video feed. So you can find that on YouTube. Just search Backstage Knitting Podcast. And of course, I will have that linked in the show notes. But if you actually want to get a visual representation for what I am seeing, or just watch me be a goof while I'm talking to you, those are some of your new options. Okay, well, let's see. Today's segments we have On the Needles, In Rehearsal and Performance, Netflix and Knit, Craftivism, and Events. So kind of a shorter lineup today, but let's jump in and get talking. Okay. So, On the Needles, I have been working rather hard on my Mama Vertebrae, and this is out of Knitted Wit Victory sock in their Rainier colorway. So it's got a lot of blues and greens with some speckles of reds and purples in it. And I am working on the first sleeve. I'm about 5 to 8 centimeters away from where I need to be before I start the ribbing part of it. So I finished the body, and I'm so excited to wear this. I have been spending the last 3 weeks doing an internship at an LGBTQ outreach youth center in my community as part of an internship is one of the requirements for finishing my degree. So it's been great, but everybody has the air conditioner blasting because they seem to think it's summer. It's only borderline summer around here. So I've been freezing. Absolutely freezing. The other day I wore a wool sweater and my wool socks in there and was just barely warm enough because I don't like the cold. So I'm excited to get this done because it's one more layer of hand knit woolly goodness to keep me warm inside the frozen tundra of that particular office space. And let's see, I've been working on 2 different sock head slouch hats still by Kelly McClure, and that is also in Knitted Wit in the Victory sock, and I've been doing one in the Lionheart colorway and one in the Sneaky Snake colorway. And here, for those watching on YouTube, I have the Lionheart colorway up. This is in like a red and a gold color, and it's striping up beautifully. It's supposed to look like Gryffindor colors. The Sneaky Snake one is in green and gray, and I found that the green and gray stripes are a lot thicker than the like red and gold ones. So this is a Gryffindor hat, and both of these hats will be going to my sisters for their various birthdays that I'm super late on birthday knitting, which this could be my theme for the year. Bethany is late with all of her birthday knitting. Yeah, so that's been fun to just, I keep them in my purse, and I haven't spent a ton of dedicated time on them. I worked on the Sneaky Snake one last night when I went to a show, which I will talk more about later. And then last but not least, this has become my obsessive potato chip knitting project. I cast on the Dotted Rays shawl by Stephen West out of the Marriage Equality Gradient set that I bought from Neighborhood Fiber Co. last Pride, so like last June-ish, and I just hadn't found the right project, and ta-da, I had. So I'm making headway on it. I'm doing each like section in the different color. I'm on to my second orange section, and yeah, it's done with a series of short rows, and then you have a row where you do like a bunch of yarn overs, and that makes the dots. So for the yarn over row, that's when I change my color, but you have all these pretty dots, and it's gorgeous. However, I don't know what I did. I did have to start this 3 different times. I started this project 3 different times, so this could very easily go into my in time out section. I started it 3 different times, and I'm still perpetually about 12 stitches short from where I need to be. At the end of my short row repeat, it's like, you know, knit to here and turn, knit to here and turn, and then at the end of doing it X amount of times, you're going to have so many stitches. Yeah, I'm about 10 to 14 stitches short every single time, but it's working. I've had to do very little fudging, and it's coming out beautifully, so maybe I've just unlocked the key to like the medium size, because you have an option for a shorter version and the long version, and I'm planning on making the long version because I have enough yardage for it. And so, you know, you do the thing, and it says, you know, if you're doing the short version, just stop here. And so maybe I'm making the medium version that Stephen West never intended to have made. Yeah, so that's been my super obsessive working on it all the time when I can project, because it's so fun, and that yarn is delicious. Absolutely delicious. Okay, let's see. I don't really have anything off the needles. It's been a little nuts, so actually finishing something has been an accomplishment that I have not accomplished. Yep. And that Dotted Rays shawl could definitely go into in time out too, as I started it 3 times. But let's see, in rehearsal and performance, we just opened Lysistrata with New Muses Theater Company, which is my boyfriend's theater company, and I am the box office manager. So I was there all 3 nights this last weekend, getting box office set up and getting tickets recorded and sold, and doing all of that, which I do really enjoy. I'm just going to put this out there for people. When you are planning to come to a show with lots of people, plan to arrive 15 minutes early. Always, you don't always have to go in, but just plan to be there. If they're like, the show starts at 2, in your head you should be like, the show starts at 1:45, so we definitely get there in plenty of time. In our building, latecomers, it's a little more of a challenge because we have to lock up the rest of the building after the show starts because there isn't necessarily anybody there to watch it. So then when you come late, I have to go let you in, and then we stand by the theater door and wait for there to be a scene change, or a transition, so you can get into your seat and not disrupt the show because of the way the small space is built. So yeah, plan to get there early. It's just good planning. Yeah, so that's really exciting. Again, Lysistrata is not necessarily for a family audience. We are doing it while it's set in modern time. The traditional Greek use of phalluses is being used. So, there is that. Let's see. Last night, Nick and I went and saw The Color Purple. That was so much fun. I mean, I have a complicated history with this show. I stage managed it a couple years ago, and it wasn't a great experience. Not going to go into all of it, but I didn't have the best of times. In my vast theater history, it wasn't good. So, there's that. But the music is beautiful, and I think the story is very relevant and needs to continue to be told from both a representation standpoint and the just general idea that it opens up it gives people who aren't sure a different lens in which to analyze sexism, racism, and classism, because those are 3 huge themes in the show, and this is based off of the novel/movie by Alice Walker, I believe. So yeah, I saw it. I just have a complicated relationship with it, but the production is a very minimalist, and they use chairs for everything, which is really cool. Sometimes things just get really bogged down with stuff. Yeah, and then after the show, out on the street in front of the theater, I ran into a bunch of my friends that I've done shows with for years at this point, so that was a fun, theater family reunion, and it was really nice to see them, just because when you're not doing shows together all the time, you don't necessarily see everybody as much as you would like. Yeah. So that was my in rehearsal and in performance. It's been a very busy theatrical week because I was at tech rehearsals most nights last week, and then we did our matinee yesterday and then went and saw an evening show of The Color Purple in Seattle. So that's not the last night of the tour. So if it comes to you, I definitely recommend checking it out. Also, that it does have some intense situations in it, so probably not the best for small children, but definitely a good one if you were looking for a conversation starter with your probably older children about racism and classism and sexism and all of those very relevant things that are still something that we should be talking about today. So, let's see. Excuse me. Netflix and Knit. It's been a fairly low-key watching stuff. Couple of weeks, mostly because I really haven't been home a lot. I think the one I watched the most has been How I Met Your Mother. All of a sudden, I was just on this How I Met Your Mother kick. So, I've watched a lot of that. It's just kind of been nice to have on in the background. I did go spend a night at a cabin with some girlfriends last weekend-ish. And when I came home, I was really like in a Broadway musical kick. So I have the documentary series Broadway, the American Musical. It was a PBS produced musical or documentary about Broadway musicals that aired probably about 14 years ago. It was 2004. The last musical they talk about is Wicked, which debuted in 2003. It did not get the 2004 Tony. Yes. So, I turned that on, which I really enjoy. I didn't make it through all of it, but I mean, it's one of my favorite musical theater-y things to just turn on, and I have most of the stories memorized because I used to watch it pretty obsessively, so that was fun. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else random that I've watched that I haven't mentioned? I've watched some Wonder Woman, because I love Wonder Woman. But the one I went and saw in theaters was Solo, a Star Wars story. And yeah, that was fine. You know, it was a movie that I didn't really, like, as a fan, I was never like, you know what, I really want a Han Solo prequel. I didn't need it. I didn't really want to see anybody other than Harrison Ford play Han Solo, who I've, had a crush on since I was 9. And there were moments where I was like, does this scene really need to be happening in the Star Wars universe? There was like sort of a car chase thing that was more reminiscent of like Back to the Future 2, what the future looks like from the 80s perspective sort of thing. And then there was some like trench warfare, which I thought was meh for the Star Wars universe. I mean, nobody watches Star Wars movies for the practical trench warfare sort of battles, if that makes sense. And yeah, and then there were other things where you knew that they had to hit certain plot points in order to be ready for A New Hope. Like the leading lady, you knew that it wasn't gonna be, they were never gonna fall into each other's arms and live happily ever after, because we all know he ends up with Princess Leia. So that's kind of that. Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about Han Solo's story. Like, it was fine, but I still didn't really need it. I had the same problem with Revenge of the Sith, where it was fine, but I knew that they had to hit certain plot points in order to set the characters up for the original trilogy. So I didn't feel like the stakes were as high, or I wasn't as invested or concerned, because, well, I knew how it was going to turn out. So, yeah, I think that's it at the moment for my Netflix and knit. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so I am adding a new segment called Craftivism to the show. It has been a rough couple of weeks, months, year and a half, etc. In the U.S., and I know a lot of people like to refrain from talking about politics, but if you've listened to the show for this long, you know that's not how I roll. So I'm going to use this segment going forward as a way to promote both craft projects and other ways of creating a positive change, both inside and outside the realm of physically making things. So encouraging you guys to call your senators and your other elected representatives, and voting. Vote. And doing other things to speak up about a lot of the very horrific injustices that have been going on in the United States recently. And for a long time. We're not exactly saints. Yeah, I think that is so important, and any way that we can marry our crafting with protest and change and doing the right thing for the rest of the world. Like, we're not all just like one single individual human marching through this world doing this thing. No, we're a community, and we need to lift everybody up, not just the ones that we deem worthy because they happen to be born here. Yeah, so I would definitely go check out the Knitmore Girls. Jasmine has been doing a fabulous sponsored welcome blanket project where you send her a screen caption to the donation you have made to whatever charity she has said donate for this square, and then she makes the welcome blanket square and has a little tag thing that she writes your name on it and attaches it to the square, and your name also goes in her project page for the project, I believe, and she'll then put it all together and with the tag, so then whoever receives the blanket knows that all of these people contributed to that blanket and to their well-being, which is pretty darn cool. So I'm hoping to be able to uplift other projects like that and start some of my own. I have some ideas as far as making both bigger changes, bigger things, attending protests, making donations, voting, calling your representatives, etc., as well as welcome blankets and knit aid and things, all a regular part in how we can promote and be loud so we don't repeat history in a horrible, horrible, horrible way that I'm worried that we will and is keeping me up at night. So, yes, so that's that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we can take this part of the show, because it's one of those things we kind of have to do together. That there's strength in numbers and positivity and ingenuity and all of that stuff. Okay, events. So, I'm a little nuts. Just, I'm going to throw that out there. And Saturday, so 2 days ago at work, I was like, man, Tour de Fleece starts next Saturday. Wouldn't it be great if we could have like some sort of crazy kickoff party in the park and get a whole bunch of people to come sit in the park in front of the library with their spinning wheels and their drop spindles and really kick off Tour de Fleece with a woohoo kind of bang? Yeah, that'd be really great. So you know what we're doing next Saturday? We're going to go to the park and have a Tour de Fleece kickoff. It's going to be so exciting. So Saturday, July 7th from 2:30 to 5 in Pioneer Park in Puyallup. The Facebook event says it's in the pavilion because that was the address I could like attach it to. I couldn't get it to link to like just the park. So we're not in the pavilion. We'll be in the park, probably near the amphitheater stagey thing. And bring a chair, bring sunscreen. We'll have water. Both Rainy Day Yarns, which is a local yarn store in Gig Harbor, and the Homestead Hobbyist are going to do some prizes and provide some water and bring a chair, bring your wheel, bring your spindle. Bring your friends. If you are not a spinner or like, yeah, Tour de Fleece, come anyway. Bring your knitting, bring your crochet. The whole catalyst behind starting this event was I just wanted to spin in the park with a bunch of rad people, and they don't even have to be spinning. So I want, again, community. I want everybody everybody involved in my events and together and all of that stuff. So a big thank you to Rainy Day Yarns and the Homestead Hobbyist for jumping up and being super interested and ready to help out. I really appreciate that. Let's see. So Tour de Fleece is also the next event that starts July 7th through the 29th, I believe, 2018. It runs concurrently with the Tour de France. So, if you guys aren't aware, Tour de Fleece is a spinning event, that runs concurrently with the Tour de France, which is a cycling event in France. See, they're spinning, we're spinning. It's a whole... one of my favorite things about knitters and fiber people is that they are really into their puns. That does a lot for me. So we will... Yeah, so the Knitmores have a whole training segment. Find your project, clean your wheel, tune it up, make sure it's ready, spin a bit of sample to make sure everything works, and then during the event, spin, but don't forget to take breaks. Good ergonomics, don't injure yourself so you can't participate in other things in the future. Stay plenty hydrated, and yeah, let's have fun. There is a podcaster all bubble team on Ravelry called Team Sasquatch. I am one of the captains, so come join Team Sasquatch. I may do a backstage knitting team, but I haven't decided, and I don't really know how that works. It might just be a thread in the Ravelry group, and people can be like, woo, Team Backstage Knitting, and see and check in with each other. But I look forward to spinning with everybody, and hopefully you can make it out to Pioneer Park in Puyallup. That's the one in front of the library, across from the subway and the Elements and stuff. Yeah, on Saturday, July 7th, 2:30 to 5. I look forward to spinning with everybody. And let's see, our last event is the Mariner Stitch and Pitch game, which is Tuesday, July 31st. I just bought our tickets, so I will be there with a rather large group. I have my knitting group that will be there, my mom and my two sisters, and then Anna's gonna come and hang out and knit with us while we watch some baseball. So if you want to come say hi to me and Anna, please do so. Yeah, I have pink hair, and I really like meeting everybody. I will have some swaggage to give away to anybody who comes says hi to me, and I'll probably be sitting for some of it, but come say hi. Let's see. Wow, I breezed through that pretty fast, but I think that's all I've got today. So let's see. Yeah, if you want to, again, find us out in social media land, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope as Backstage Knitting Podcast. Show notes can be found at backstageknitting.com. You can email me with any questions, comments, or concerns at backstageknitting@gmail.com. Join our Ravelry group, Backstage Knitting Podcast. The support and the lovely conversation from everybody there has just been amazing, so come join us. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts if you are an audio podcast listener. And if you have a chance and can leave a review, that would be great. It helps more people find the show. And we are also now on YouTube. So if you are looking for the visual content version, you can Backstage Knitting Podcast on YouTube. And please, again, subscribe, and any rating or review or positive comment is awesome while I'm trying to figure out how the video stuff works. Okay. Well, I think that is everything I have to share with you lovely people for today. So have a great week. Have a safe 4th of July. Hopefully I will see some of you on Saturday at the park for our Tour de Fleece kickoff. And if not, have a lovely, lovely week, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.